welcome to the Real Estate Show. We have today Wissam Karmuchi from Goldmark Real Estate.
Good afternoon.
How are you, Wissam?
Very well, thank you.
Myself, Kerem of Goldmark Real Estate, and we have a very special guest, Kerem Danish, the COO of Mr. Usta with us today. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Very welcome, very welcome. So, Kerem, tell us a bit about yourself. How long have you been in Dubai?
7 years, not a short amount of time. Unlike many other people, though, we had no plans to leave after a couple of years. I thought, well, we're going to be here for as long as it takes to get to where we need to be. I moved out here with my wife. Actually, I came hand in hand with her. She was headhunted, and I actually pushed her to take the job because I wanted to move out. I wanted to leave the UK. And 7 years later, I'm now COO of Mr. Usta and enjoying life here in Dubai.
Excellent. Were you one of the people who felt you might be here for a couple of years and extend it to 7? I mean, that's a general consensus with a lot of people here.
So the joke in the house is my wife genuinely believed we'd be here for about 12 months, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't want to put a number on it. Like a typical bloke, you don't want to commit to anything.
Sure.
And I said, let's see how it goes. And the key thing where we realized there was genuine longevity is when we had the kids.
Yeah.
So that's a key thing. And then when you talk to a lot of people here in Dubai, once you start having kids here, then the projection, the timelines just completely change.
Makes all of your planning a lot easier as well, because you're maybe planning home, then you end up planning schools.
Right.
When you need to, in your mind, you need to say, okay, we're going to have to settle here for X amount of years to make these decisions, I would guess.
Exactly. When we were expecting our first, who's now 4, at that time, it was all about planning then the schooling.
Yeah.
Things have changed now because of the changes here in macro and micro, where you can still get into school if you apply a year before. But in those days, you'd have to apply a few years in advance. So you're forced essentially to make a plan.
Yeah.
And we didn't buy. We carried on renting. We're still renting now, albeit we might be looking to buy now.
Good time for you to come on the show.
It is. What a coincidence, right? But yeah, it has a big part to play here. Property and whether you're going to buy and rent and so on. So.
Oh, good. Tell us about Mr. Usta.
Right. Again, we are very related to the real estate market here. So you look at it as a journey. Customers who are clients, whatever you want to call them, they are looking to buy a home. They may take 3 or 6 months, sometimes longer, sometimes less, to buy a property or rent. And you guys do your bit, and then after that, we kind of take over. How does that happen? Well, essentially, and this is a very, very interesting analogy. Someone told me last week, the 3 worst things to happen to you in life: death, divorce, and moving home. Those are the 3 most stressful things that could potentially happen to you in your life. Moving a home is something that we all have to do at one point or another, and we all hate it. I think here in the region, it's even more stressful than back home in the UK. At least we believe there's more trust in the companies that do it. Here, less so. It's I call it mafia, a little bit of the moving mafia here, the companies that are doing it. You have the good ones who are, some of them are prohibitively expensive, and that's the issue, and I'll come to that later on as well.
Sure.
So what we wanted to do is we wanted to try and standardize the cost and the of moving, and essentially that's why moving is our biggest category. As a home services platform, we can offer around 50 to 100 different types of services, and you can use our application or go on our website.
Okay, this is what I was going to ask you. So how the people will be able to reach you?
Yeah, so we have, as I said, an application. You download it. We call it Mr. Usta, and we specialize in moving, which is our gateway category. Okay. And after that, all the other categories spawn. So once you move, you might need pest control, you might need to book in a deep cleaner, your AC duct cleaning, repainting, and then go into landscaping and even villa renovations. We do all those kinds of things.
Okay, good.
So as a business model, very quickly, we have 2 key different ones, which is quotation based or offers based. So if Wissam, you want to find a painter for your home, you can book a request and you can get 3 or 4 or even 5 different painters trying to vie for your business, and they'll send you quotations. You can arrange site visits. We have on demand, or what we call instant booking. So if you need if you are time sensitive or you trust us enough that we're going to send you the right service provider, prices are upfront. So, your cleaners, even now we have moving as an upfront pricing. So if you're moving your 3-bedroom from within Dubai, we can give you a price upfront and we'll give you all the services.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, but as let's assume that I'm the first time who's using your service. So I enter to the application, I put my request. And then after that, who will come to see me? They will come a representative from your team, from your operation team, or you will be sending for me the Ustas individually, or how it works?
Very good question. When we started, we wanted to be purely tech, with the least amount of hand-holding. We thought that customers and the service providers were educated enough to be able to talk to themselves. We would just be the middleman, the go-between. We would just bring those two parties together. What happened was, over the course of months and the first couple of years, we saw that customers still didn't trust the brand and the service providers on the platform. They were coming to us and asking us many questions. Should I use the service provider? What is his background, and so on? So we actually built a team, a customer services team, where we more often than not handhold the inquiries that come in. We don't physically go to your home, but we're there by email, or most often it's through WhatsApp conversations where you would book a request, you'll have 3 offers, let's say, and then we'll ask you, have you spoken to the Usta? Have you negotiated with them? Are you happy with their quotation? Have they come for a site visit? And then we kind of handhold. That's what we call it. I
think something which seems important here, and I know that a number of clients that we would have would see a huge advantage in maybe the vetting process of the quality of the service providers who might come round and take care of the electrical, plumbing, or any aspects, especially with so many people year in year who are moving fresh to Dubai, who might not have those referral contacts that you might have in your home country.
So essentially there's 2 key vetting processes. One is the one when we onboard a new service provider or Usta, but then the best way forward is the customers themselves. So once the job is done, they can come back and close the job on the platform and then give a rating out of 5. And then it becomes organic. The best Ustas kind of rise to the top, and they get more and more bookings.
And we refer to these the service providers as Ustas.
Yeah,
excellent.
So,
I feel like this is an army of Ustas running around.
And for those that are tuning in and don't know what it means, Usta in Turkish and in Arabic in some countries in this region means master or guru or expert. Excellent. So that's why we're called Mr. Usta.
And what's the story with the mustache?
Well, we as a team, the founders are Turkish, so the moustache and Turks go hand in hand, I guess, a little bit.
It's a super logo. It's a super logo.
It is.
It is very good. I see it frequently coming up throughout my links on social media.
That's the thing. We wanted. Funnily enough, when we did our rebranding, we used a Swedish agency who's worked for companies like Dolce & Gabbana, right? And this is something unusual for a services company who deals with plumbers and handymen all day long. We wanted something that would create virality, something that would have some brand recall. Our competitors have called themselves exactly what they do, but we wanted to create something that could live in your mind, even in the back of your mind.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You have mentioned during your journey here that from 12-month plan to 7 years,
right?
and then like I believe that it's not gonna stop at 7 years. There is unfortunately, like I started here when I was planning for a couple of years, then I'm 20 years here.
Right.
As you said that you were you are still a tenant and you are thinking of buying a house.
Yeah.
So hence you start thinking of buying a house. What do you think of the real estate market in Dubai?
So coupled with the fact that I've been here for so long, 7 years, there has been a big change in the landscape. So I came 2011, where there was absolutely no need to buy because rents were so cheap. We moved to the downtown, which had we come a few years prior to that, we wouldn't have been able to afford to live in the downtown area because there was about 40 or 50% drop in the rental. What's interesting is that although I would, and forgive me for saying this, although it's a little bit still the Wild West, it's definitely not like it was 7 to 10 years ago. There is more organization. I think people are explaining better the process of buying a property, and there's just essentially better products.
Okay.
Right. That's one thing that I've observed, and there's one thing that me and my friends who are also looking to buy have observed. The product just looks slicker. Even the way that new communities are marketed here, it's more, I guess, more professional. It's something akin to when I was buying properties back home. Whereas in the old days, it was just solely a conversation you were having with a guy in the middle of a desert plot, right, with the sand coming up to your,
and hopefully something will come in the future.
Right, exactly. I mean, anecdotally, I mean, from my own point of view, it's the reason why we didn't buy is because, like I said before, we didn't really know how long we'd be here. But once you know, then it makes sense. I'm not trying to help you sell properties or anything like that, but I think it just makes sense. And everyone asks the same question, right? When you talk and you're with your friends, you don't know what the market's going to be like in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, right? But actually, a colleague of my wife's just did a back of the envelope kind of calculation, bit of mathematics. And even if you factor in worst case scenario, a 10-15% drop even in your house price,
I agree.
You made up for it anyway without spending, because you haven't spent all that rent for all those years. So that's how we look at it. It's a long game for us. But right now, if you want to talk about what's happening right now, we are seeing through my peer group and my wife's and others, no matter what you're at, what you're doing, whatever your salary is, people are a little bit, let's say, fragile, for want of a better word. So I think that's making people a bit hold off a little bit.
I think the big thing would be the stability from different angles. Maybe your home life stability, not sure how long you're going to live here in Dubai, and then you might be alluding to people with stability with jobs, and other aspects of life. But
in a good way, and I'll kind of circle back to from a work perspective. See, we have seen a pickup in moving inquiries further outfield. Right, so if you were living in Marina 2 years ago, 3 years ago, or in Jumeirah for that matter, you'd probably move within that community because you're settled. But now a lot of people are moving further afield, to even as far as Rimram and places like that, or the new communities like Mudon, Arabian Ranches 2, and so on.
Better value for money, and it's an opportunity to move to a villa at not the same price you might pay closer to Sheikh Zayed Road, for instance.
Exactly.
Not only like this, and also those job inquiry what they have requested that. There might be a buyer who bought a house and they moved there, then they took the opportunity where the prices are in a good level for people to consider buying. Don't you think?
Well, I think, look, if one's been here for 5 years and you've had a certain standard of living, you've had a certain size of villa, for example, in Jumeirah, and but you can't afford to pay 250,000 anymore. Right. So, for example, a lot of companies are cutting back on housing allowance, right? Quite noticeably. So people are downsizing, but they're actually downsizing. They're just trying to, lessen the burden on their pockets. In their pockets. So they go, well, I can move to Mudon now for whatever it is. What is the price now for a 4-bedroom in Mudon?
2.3.
No, I mean to rent, for example.
You'll be 150.
Yeah, exactly. Now I can move to there for 150. I still keep my standard of living. Maybe I have to spend an extra 10-15 minutes on the road, but people are willing to do that. And you come back to your first question, those that went on the market, those went on offer 5 years ago. So there was no choice. They call it affordable living here. I heard that term banded around. It doesn't really resonate with me like in the UK. The affordable living is very different.
I think a lot of people, when they look at prices in their home country, kind of snigger when it's affordable living.
Absolutely. And here, so you might lose like 400, 500, 600 square foot, for a 4-bedroom than you would if you're living more centrally.
I mean, we discussed this with Sam and I before on another show where we had access to live data on social media where there was an online conversation going on, one of these dads groups, Facebook pages, and there was around about 7 to 8 comments. I printed them all off and brought them in, and we used it as part of a discussion. And they went into a lot of detail in terms of whether, if they'd rented for the upcoming 5 years, how much they would have paid in rent against if they had bought a property. And in most cases, I know you said around about 10 to 15% the property value would need to drop, but in most of these cases, it was actually between 25 to 40% that you would have need to lost on your property price that you'd bought. And even then, you would be just living rent-free for 5 years if it did hit that kind of level. I think something... Maybe, you know, for instance, the example you used, if someone is living in Jumeirah, they're paying 250,000, they've got a certain size of property, maybe the budget for buying might not allow them into a property a similar size, and having to take that step back and say that, you know, financially it's better for us to live in a smaller home. I think some people might be caught in the middle there.
And there are some people who have calculated that 250,000, for example, as Kerem says as an example, and multiply it in 4 years is 1 million dirham, which will be a proper down payment for a good size villa or Dubai land. So in the term of sizes, I think it could be used as a reason for comparison, but I think, in my point of view, the main reason for people that they might consider moving from the existing community to go to a new community and to purchase there is the price, which today it helps them a lot to take that decision and actually to move forward.
So if you look at, you know, what you can buy, you're buying for your buck, so to speak here, it's still great. I don't think, I mean, there are properties going for 700 to $1 million less than what they were purchased originally.
Sure.
But the problem, what is the biggest pain point for people like me, for that matter, is the deposit. Right? I want to move.
Yeah.
I really want to move, but I also don't want to have to
put all your cash in. And
put all my cash in.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
I don't want to, and I said this to a friend the other day, I don't want to feel poor after I bought a house.
Exactly.
So if I'm going
to feel poor,
well, sure, but if I drop $1 million into the house, and that's the issue. So I think, you know, it doesn't take a genius to work out that if, you know, we need to have more flexibility in the deposits. And I know that there's conversations happening or rumors and here and there, but I think they need to make a decision because, as Mr. Usta as well, to circle back, I mean, when we're also affected. Why are we affected? So typically in the last 12 months, we've seen more price conscious customers of ours haggling more. The ticket sizes have dropped slightly, even in affluent areas. So, for example, customers that in Arabian ranches, they wouldn't think twice. They'll take the first offer. Now I'm like, no, I want 5%. I want 10%. I mean, that's just now the sentiment in the market.
You see a lot more negotiating.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. We're lucky as a business because we have such a broad range of different types of service providers, from your super high end to your guys who have got a team of 20, which, you know, can offer great value for money but still provide a good quality of service. So we're able to ride that, but I think, you know, that's something that's happening now on the floor.
Now, again, back to a little bit about Mr. Usta, which links again with real estate. Technology is a wide range, let's say. So looking at it from a social media perspective, this is a huge part of your business. I mean, without today's current technology, something like your business would look completely different. And like you said before, you would need a lot more staff, for instance.
Yep.
It would be more probably door to door. And now you have the capability with social media to reach so many more people.
Yes and no, actually. It's I have, and I don't mind sharing with you a little bit of the journey of how we've acquired customers since we started. So first of all, the platform that we provide we didn't reinvent the wheel. I mean, it's something that's established in Europe and the US. Companies like TaskRabbit and Thumbtack and so on. Conceptually, it's something we've localized here. The problem is let's call them the idiosyncrasies of the UAE and the consumers here. I mean, just to give you some kind of, you know, frame of reference, only 12% of residents here know that there is an application for you to book a cleaner. right? Still, for our sector, around 80% are purely offline. So we're fighting many different battles on many different fronts. We're competing with other digital players. We're dealing with platforms as well as the actual service providers as well, who are now moving digital as well. And also we're competing with your concierge in your building or your friend's gardener or whatever. That essentially is why we have changed our tactics over the last few years. So we spend a lot of money on social media, and we thought the ROI would be great because the ROI is great in e-commerce or in other sectors.
Sure.
But for a sector like ours, it's not a sexy one. So, and it's a needs-based one. It's not something that has a high frequency. If you need a plumber, you need a plumber. If you don't need one, you don't need one. I can't push you to use a plumber today. So it costs a lot to acquire a customer. So we had to do things a little bit differently in the branding, as we mentioned before, to create that kind of organic awareness through partnerships so we work with developers and other companies to try and piggyback off their own database, so to speak. So now, when initially social media was around 80 or 90% of our marketing budget, it's now reduced to less than half, or in some cases, some months we drop it to 20 or 30%. Why am I saying this? I'm not saying this to scare people off that social media doesn't work. It's just that for Mr. Usta, it's not the be all or end all.
Got it.
How we try and mitigate the costs of acquiring customers online is through trying to get customers to come back. So you have the initial cost. So for any company, you look at what is my acquisition cost of the first, let's say, basket or the first job that they post on Mr. Usta. Then can I get them to come back, right? Because the second, third, fourth, fifth job is essentially free, right? This is called customer lifetime value. So what we do is we cut costs and we add new categories that hope to increase that lifetime value. So our best performing category right now is laundry. Very important for consumers here in the UAE.
Exactly.
Our biggest customer base is in the Marina and JBR area right now. We have heat maps, so we can see where all the jobs are coming from in Dubai specifically. So a lot of people are loving our product, and they come back at least twice a month to book laundry. And we have a very simple service. You don't book it by the item, but you just fill up a bag, which is 10 kilograms. If you want to wash and press a 10 kilogram bag, it only costs you 45 dirhams, free delivery and everything. So
this sounds good, Wissam.
Yeah. Now you guys clearly have special guys to clean your suits. You look very sharp. So yeah, that's another way to ensure that there is viability in the business and try and reduce your marketing spend. So my advice to people all the time is, yes, social media, definitely very important. I mean, the other day someone passed me a website for a real estate social media site, right? It's a single play, or it's horizontal play, as we say. So he wants to create a social media for real estate. Now, will that work? I don't know, because you're in a crowded space already. Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter are pretty much taking up 80% of your time on your phone. Do you want then to ask someone, oh, please come to my social media site just to look at real estate?
Yeah.
So that's
I think real estate on social media is something which is very important. But at the same time, if you're looking at some of the property prices here, it's not an everyday thing that you go and buy. It's a very high price just to open up a social media app, and all of a sudden you're involved in buying something.
So we come back to what Wissam asked me before. High touch points or high human interaction, right? If I was now a customer of yours and I wanted to buy a property, how do you differentiate between the other players in the market, right? Is it content that you create like this, for example? Is it through referrals and word of mouth, and I just get to know that Goldmark is really valuable and really great team? Or is it on the personal level? Is it the personal brand, or is it the individual that works within the company? And how well have you sold it? And do you engender that kind of trust and reliability? And I think, again, here I mentioned the term cowboys, right? There are a lot of people, these upstarts. We suffer the same almost in parallel. Every month, 1 or 2 apps are spawned from nowhere. Often,
similar concept.
Yeah, almost not even similar, guys. Not even. It's literally a copy paste. They will copy content from our website and create a website themselves. Then when we delve deep,
maybe just with the beards, not the moustache.
Yeah, no, someone's actually taken a moustache as well, and they just made it different color and what have you.
Unbelievable.
And what they've done is,
and they call themselves Mr. Usta too.
well, Mr. Guru was one. I think was one. But often they're done by people who are doing it as a side job or it's like, part-time thing. And again, you have real estate agents that are doing it not as their full-time business, right? They're doing it just to supplement their income. Right. That, I mean, it happens. It's not the general rule of thumb, but
unfortunately, this is true. Yeah.
So what these apps do for us or what these guys do for you, they dilute your value because often people tar you with the same brush, right? You say, oh, I'm a marketplace app. Oh yeah, I know. There's 15 of you. Why do I care about Mr. Usta? And then you tell them what we do.
We have a constant battle when you mention you're a real estate broker. I've been at events and they've picked me out in the crowd and asked me what my job is, and I've mentioned I'm in real estate and I got a boo from the crowd. So I know exactly.
You're up there with lawyers, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Listen, Kerem. One thing we want to ask everyone coming on to the show. Is about the future and virtual reality and how you see this moving into real estate. Could you see yourself in the future buying a home, with these virtual reality, what do you call goggles?
Yeah.
Goggles on, sitting at home, working away while you're maybe watching and looking through a property. Could you see yourself doing something like that?
I think maybe not myself, but my kids. It will be second nature to my kids, and so someone said to me, and said to my colleague as well, "Oh, your business will never work. No one's ever going to book a cleaner online, right?" And look where we're at now, and look where we are in global terms as well. In the same vein, we shouldn't, just because we're not comfortable with the technology, doesn't mean that in the future it won't be second nature to us.
But do you think such a technology needs this 10 to 15 years to people to implement it?
No.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
Sure.
If you look to the app and to the service, like within 3 years, people they start using the apps, use the technology, they go online. Yesterday I was talking with one of our let's call it business partners. Yeah. And actually they asked me the same question. Or similar question. And if you look at it like 10 years back, we were going everywhere, or the buyer go to carry 20 or 30 brochures, spend 3-4 hours looking to the property magazine or to the golf news.
Walking around the offices.
Walking around to the offices, going to do window shopping, visiting 10 to 15 real estate company just to get the information. While now, no matter what age you are, still now everybody has the app and his phone for the search engine, and they look for the property.
So let's look at
that period didn't take them 20 years because the technology it came yesterday. Well, not yesterday, but eventually, like in the last 2 years, that the prop tech or the technology for the real estate or the smartphone and the apps became kind of live. So the people start using and adapting. Maybe not 100% of the people, 90% they do. But I think for the virtual reality, you don't need it for 15 or 20
No, you
years.
don't. I think there'll be a much faster adoption rate in VR, and you need to look at what's currently being used as a form of communication, or let's say dispersion of information. So for example, if you send me a WhatsApp telling me there's a new property on the market, I might ask you, can you share me a video of it, right? So already you're talking about, I want to see something live, something tangible, because I can't maybe go to the property. Or if you segment your market, you'll have investors, right? You'll have investors from God knows where around the globe. They want to send you $5 million for you to invest on their behalf, but they don't want to get on a plane to come over to Dubai.
Exactly.
So they can do it through VR. So I definitely believe it's valuable for you guys. Yeah. Again, people shouldn't be scared of that because they just don't know any different. But it'll become second nature to us in a few years' time. And if you look at augmented reality, which is kind of the sister kind of tech, it's becoming more and more in our daily lives. Games are using that and so on.
Totally.
So I think yes, in short, but I think maybe later down the line it would be a daily use.
I think just to finish up and add a final comment here. Already, like you're saying, we are buying properties without visiting the property itself. So as of now, today, there are people standing in developers' offices across Dubai buying properties without ever visiting the property. They're buying it looking at a 3D model, looking at a brochure and watching a video. So already, and especially here, perhaps more so than some other places, people are already accustomed to us showing them with a laser pen and showing them which unit it is on a 3D model, and they're going ahead and buying. And I mean, huge transactions were done last year with people who, I mean, there was more transactions done in 2017 in off-plan than on ready property in purchasing. So this is already showing that there's that shift which is there. We have the mentality to do it, just the physical opening up a video or the goggles to watch it might be slightly different.
He touched a very important point with the adaptations. When you will adapt to the new system or to the new technology, this is the challenge. Like, people they will adapt very quick, and people they might take them some time. But as he said, that it will be there. I'm sure.
Let's see.
So one of the barriers to entry is cost, right?
Yeah.
If it's prohibitive to invest in that technology. And everything has your basic bell-shaped adoption curve. You'll have your early adopters and your innovators who will use that technology either as from the supply side or the demand side. But then eventually, when it hits your mass, your early and late majority, it will become cheaper to use, and you'll be able to use that within the business. I mean, the question that you guys asked me is, will it work? I think that's a redundant question. To be honest, it will work. It's totally fine to be looking forward to VR. It's just when. And how much it will cost to use it.
Super. Very good. So let's see. Listen, thanks, Kerem. Thanks for joining us. It's been a pleasure having you on and getting to know a lot more about yourself and Mr. Usta.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kerem.
Thanks,
Good man.
guys.
Thanks very much. Thank you.